Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. When it comes to making art, the process is just as important as the product. At least that's what I got from today's interview. It's with debut novelist Katie Yee about her book Maggie, or A Man and Woman Walk Into a Bar. It's about a woman going through a lot: a breast cancer diagnosis, a divorce, her husband's affair, and she has to navigate all of this while still being a mother. And in this interview with Here and Now's Asma Khalid, Yee talks about writing this book to wrestle with her own questions about having kids, to visit the everyday life of a parent who has to do the boring everyday parent things, Because for Yee, the writing process is how she processes the world. More up ahead.
This message comes from Amazon Pharmacy. When you're on hold with the pharmacy and you hear, "Your call is very important," after the 10th loop, you start to doubt that. Amazon Pharmacy delivers meds to you fast without the hold music. Amazon. Healthcare just got less painful.
This message comes from Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile took what's wrong with wireless and made it right. They offer premium wireless plans for less, and all plans include high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, and nationwide coverage. See for yourself at mintmobile.com/switch.
A man and a woman walk into a restaurant. That kind of sounds like the beginning of a joke, but in Katie Yee's novel, it's the end of a marriage. To make matters worse, the woman finds a lump in her breast. I know you're thinking this sounds like a downer of a book, but it is actually incredibly witty and insightful. Kind of ideal if you're looking for a summer read with some substance. The book is called Maggie, or A Man and a Woman Walk Into a Bar, and author Katie Yee joins us from the NPR New York studios to talk about it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
And I should say, this is your first novel.
It is.
And you are 29 years old. And the reason I mention your age is that I was struck by the degree of maturity and clarity, I think, you had throughout the book in dealing with themes around like marriage, divorce, motherhood, cancer. Why is this the book you wanted to write?
You're right. The story does not indeed follow kind of the shape of my life. But I think when I started writing it, I was thinking a lot about how weird it is to have a body. But I think there are so many moments in life, and especially in a woman's life, that really force you back into your body, right? Breast cancer is something that the main character deals with in the book, and it's something that runs through my own family. My mother and grandmother have both lived through that, and it's something that I had been trying and failing to write about for a while, but I did want to honor their stories with this one.
So, Katie, did you find it easier to write about a topic as dense as breast cancer, let's say, through comedy, through wit, humor at times?
Definitely. I definitely think that the humor was essential in kind of staying sane and writing this story. I think in life, nothing is ever one note. There is sometimes joy to be found in rooms like this. I'm actually thinking specifically, there's this one episode of Sex and the City where Samantha, played by Kim Cattrall, is diagnosed with breast cancer. And there's this phenomenal scene where she and her friends are sitting in the chemotherapy room, and she's going through treatment, but they're also, laughing and joking and talking about dating and all these things that they are normally doing. And I thought that was such an incredible way to capture just the nuance of something like this. Yes, it's horrible and heavy and bleak, but also life goes on and there can still be moments of joy. And I wanted to put that in my book as well.
We never learn your narrator's name, but we do know that she is Asian American, and we get glimpses of that throughout the book. And I will say it's never really over the top that you're talking to us about identity. The reason I mention this is that her husband leaves her. He's having an affair, he says, with a woman, another woman, and that woman is white. And that really hits a nerve. Talk to us about the ways in which you wanted to write about identity and race here.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to quote the writer Sequoia Nagamatsu here. I'm going to paraphrase something that he said once in an interview. He is third-generation Japanese American, and he said that for him, the immigrant story didn't quite ever feel right for him to write about. It wasn't something that he himself had kind of gone through. And for him, race was always present but not central to the plots of his stories. And that's kind of how I feel here, too. I mean, I started taking this story really seriously as a novel during the pandemic. hit my late 20s and I moved in with my boyfriend, and we started to get all these questions about, when we were going to get married and when we were going to have children. And at the same time, this global pandemic had hit and there was all this violence happening towards Asian Americans. And it really made me think, these two things kind of coinciding, it really made me think about whether or not I could bring a child into the world who looked like me, right? Who I couldn't protect from these things.
Do you have children of your own?
I do not. I do not. And I think that writing this story was kind of my way of, so much of the way that I process the world is through writing fiction. One of my best friends, she just had her first child. And, she's getting all these questions, of course. The first in a friend group, I think, always does. Does it hurt? Are you tired? And these are stupid questions because, of course, it did. And, of course, she is. But I think I wanted to sit with, when I was writing this, more of the everyday questions, right? Like, what would it be like to be checking their homework at the end of the night? You're exhausted, but you want to make sure that they spelled everything right, to watch their handwriting transform, to see the way that they dot their I's. How does that change? Are there hearts over them? Things like that I really wanted to sit with, and I had the best time doing that.
I want to turn back to the plot of this book. As the main character, who is also the unnamed narrator here, learns that her husband is having an affair, she also finds she has breast cancer. She goes on to actually name her tumor. She calls her tumor Maggie, which, by the way, is the name of the other woman. And the reason I bring this up is, to me, it was such a delightful example of humor in the book. It's almost like saying to her husband, you have a Maggie, well, fine, so do I. Why'd you decide to do that?
I think that was kind of her way of taking control, right? And taking the reins back of her own life. I think when you name something, you put your own stamp on it, you kind of claim it as your own. And so much of her life up until this point, I feel like she had kind of been letting her husband sit in the driver's seat. And this was her way of, just taking the wheel back.
You do consistently try to deal with these heavy topics and provide moments of levity, trying to turn some of the tragedy, I would say, into comedy. And this is sprinkled all throughout the book. And I would love for you to read a paragraph or two for us. There's a section at the very bottom of page 2. I think it starts, I have on good authority.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let me dive in. I have on good authority an OB nurse holding court at a friend's holiday party that when they are born, children most resemble the father. They have evolved to do so the dad will recognize himself in his offspring and not think them the product of a torrid affair. Even the evolution of newborns assumes a world rife with infidelity. Even babies know to appease the patriarch, to make it known that they are his.
You allude to the affair there, but in a funny way.
Thank you.
You also explore the idea, I think, of motherhood, but also sort of fatherhood here, right? The role of dads throughout the book. There is a sense that her husband is someone who the children really prefer, right? He tells them these fun bedtime stories. He is a lighthearted guy who wants to give the children a really good time before actually even telling them about the divorce.
Yes.
What were you trying to say about dads? And was it bigger than just this particular dad? Were you trying to say something sort of more holistically about fatherhood?
I don't even know that I mean it specifically like along the lines of gender, right? Like motherhood, fatherhood. But
okay.
I think there are different kinds of parents. I remember so vividly there was this mother to this other girl in 6th grade, and she was so sure that her daughter was going to be like a businesswoman, and she was just going to be so successful. And I don't think that my friend had any interest in business at all. But I think there are parents who project a lot of their hopes and dreams. I mean, my grandparents really wanted me to be like a doctor or a lawyer. But then there are also parents, I think, who are so genuinely curious about their children. And that's something that I really wanted to capture here. So much of my love of storytelling comes from sitting with my own mother. She loved telling me bedtime stories. She loved telling me myths. But then she would do this thing where she would be like, okay, now you tell me a story. It's your turn. And she was just so curious about what I would say, curious about the observations I had picked up from my day. And I think I really wanted to put on the page here a mother who this Asian American mother who is maybe different from other Asian American mothers that you see, typically represented in media, right? Not a tiger mom, not a helicopter mom, someone who wants the best for her kids, but who really wants to get to know them, who sees that they become something so different from herself every day and really wants to meet them where they are.
That's really insightful, Katie, because I don't know that until I had my own kids, I fully understood that they are so autonomous. It was very humbling to realize how different they are than me, which I think brings me back to reality every day. Katie, let me ask you for your final words now here on your first book. What do you hope readers take away from it?
I hope readers take away from this the feeling that they can tell the story of their own life, right? I mean, I think we all have these origin stories and these myths and maybe these meet cutes that we've been telling ourselves or telling our friends over drinks time and time again. And I hope readers feel kind of this permission or this freedom to rewrite their own story at any point.
Katie Yee's new novel is Maggie, or A Man and a Woman Walk Into a Bar. Katie Yee, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me.
This message comes from Warby Parker, prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Glasses designed in-house from premium materials starting at just $95, including prescription lenses. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Capella University. Interested in a quality online education? Capella is accredited by the Higher Learning Commission. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
This message comes from Lisa. Lisa isn't just about sleep, it's about impact. They donate thousands of mattresses each year to those in need, while also partnering with organizations like Clean Hub to help remove harmful plastic waste from oceans. Visit lisa.com for 25% off mattresses, plus get an extra $50 off with promo code NPR. That's LEESA.com, promo code NPR.